Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday morning. This is Multifamily Unplugged, and welcome. Glad that you're here. Hey, if you are joining us for the first time, I just want to tell you I'm really glad you're here. I'm hoping somebody told you about the show. We're here every Saturday morning talking about multifamily. We're going to talk about how to find great deals in this uncertain market. We're going to talk about raising capital. We're going to talk about underwriting. We're going to talk about everything you need to know to grow your multifamily business. Like I said, every Saturday morning we're here. Buckle up today for this ride. I want you to make sure you've got some notes, a pen and pencil. Be intentional about what you're going to learn. So if you need to go grab a cup of coffee, go do that. If you have comments or thoughts, throw them in the chat, or you can definitely DM us afterwards and we'll get back to you. Here we are, end of the year, getting ready to kick off the new year. Tell me a little bit about what your goals are. What are your goals for the new year going to be? Are you setting realistic strategic goals that you're going to be able to accomplish this year and at least get close to? So if I can help you with that, if you want to have a goal setting or planning strategy with me, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to ask you a favor. Please, if you're on YouTube this morning, smash the subscribe button. Continue to follow us. We're always bringing out new content. We're bringing great guests to the platform to give you new insights and new conceptual ways of doing your business. If you're on Facebook, Multifamily Unplugged is our Facebook community there. We're always networking. We're sharing. We're letting you know about the events coming up, whether it be a webinar, and we have a number of webinars lined up over the next couple months, talking about anatomy of a syndication and tax planning and a lot of things to start getting you ready for your multifamily business and to grow that. Also, the other thing that I want to encourage you, network with people in that community, network with people in that group, see who you might find for a great team member. Teams are really important. So I invite you to do that. And if you're on social media, like us and love us. We love the follows and the likes. It just helps build our platform out and helps us to help other people to grow their business. So glad that you're here. Buckle up. My guest this morning, John Todderud with Cardinal Oak Investments. John's calling in from Seattle. Let's bring him in this morning. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for asking me to join. I'm doing great. It's good to talk to you again. I love our discussions. I love the excitement, and you ask a lot of great questions in all of our discussions, and I'm looking forward to a little apprehensive and can't wait to get started and see where we go. Share some insights and experiences, and hopefully add some value to our folks here.
Yeah, well, we have definitely had some good conversations, and I've been grateful for that. So certainly looking forward to this morning and getting to know you a little bit more and digging deep into your knowledge and seeing, kind of from a selfish standpoint, what can I learn? And, I always come to this platform with that perspective of what can I learn new today from somebody else, or what can somebody say that I forgot? And, it helps me to remember something from a while ago.
And even more than that, it is deliberately choosing things in your day, activities that allow you to learn more and that offer that opportunity.
100%.
Something not just for entertainment or to meet somebody and then walk away, but what can I learn out of it? I can share,
absolutely,
but I can learn as well.
Yeah, and the one thing that I talk to people so much about is relationships. And, you and I get on here this morning and we're just going to have a casual conversation and, we're just building our relationship, right? Because we've talked about partnering and doing some business together, maybe doing a deal together in the coming year. And you know what? We just need to keep learning a little bit more about each other. And, I think that one of the keys is I always talk to people about doing a SWOT analysis, that SWOT, your strength, weakness, opportunity, and the threats, right? People have to find out what they're really good at, and then go find other people that are good at other stuff. So I'm hoping we discover some of that this morning.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of it around, and I'm not sure which direction you're going to take me today, but I'm hanging on for the ride, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, like I told everybody else, buckle up, John.
Yes.
Hey, I always kick this off. I ask one question, and that question is, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
Yeah. I wish I had more than one word. It's tough to boil it all down because it never accomplishes anything. So I thought about this for a couple minutes, and I think the best word would be enthusiasm at this point. I mean, I can expand on it, and I could add a bunch more, but enthusiasm is what I try to bring to all of my work efforts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And personal and everything in my life, really.
So do you think you've always been enthusiastic, or is that something that grew on you over the years? Or
Yeah, no, I wish I could say I always have. We all go through periods in our life where we have downs, and we have ups certainly, but we have downs as well, and it's hard to be enthusiastic and when you're going through some difficult times, whether it's personal or business or whatever it happens to be. And we've all done it, of course. And when we get back on our feet, when we're heads in the right place and we start moving forward, we're realizing this is when I need to be enthusiastic. If I don't have that natural inclination getting up in the morning and waking up and, man, I'm enthusiastic today, well, then you got to think about things that get you in that mood, because that's where good things come from.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. So, well, I'm glad that you're enthusiastic. It's Saturday morning. Hopefully you've got your coffee, and our listeners have their coffee, and we're ready to roll here. So why don't you talk a little bit about your background? Tell us, what your past life has been like and how you got in the multifamily business and what you're doing today.
Okay, yeah, glad to. I have had a strong technology background, started off in software engineering, and I loved the process of building things. And I did that a fair amount as a kid, build little things around the house, and realized that it's not only fun, but I had sort of a technical aptitude. In school, did well at math, and that's one of those little indicators that, you should pick a technology direction in your life, and not necessarily that you have to, but it was my direction. I chose computer science and moved on to software engineering, and in the software world, developing products and then using my creativity to build products and commercially viable products. Built the company around it, and then moved into other areas related to the field, like managing other software developers and consulting. Had my own business for about 10 years, selling software products. So through the course of all that, you find yourself as a good engineer, but you say, hey, I'm going to start a company, or I'm going to build a product or something like that. You introduced yourself to a whole world of other new challenges that you didn't expect. Number one is selling. And can you sell or not? Can you walk up to somebody and introduce yourself? Can you put yourself in an environment where you're going to meet people? Can you persuade somebody that what you have is good for them and they need to part with their hard-earned money in order to buy your product? And that's one thing. I was in a role where I saw a person, and I worked for a person who was very good at that, and so I kind of saw what you needed to do and the benefits of being that way. But I appreciated it. You can't just be an engineer and start your own company. You have to figure these things out, and then there's all the financial and operational and accounting aspects to a business. And then there's you've got employees, and how do you manage an employee? How do you direct them? How do you lead them? And all fairly new things for me, but you figure it out. And time went on, and built the business, and eventually sold the business and moved on to other roles, again in technology. Along the line, I had savings and 401ks and all the traditional things we have as employees. But it really wasn't becoming what I needed it to be. And for me, I had, and a kind of an excess of energy and a lot of enthusiasm again, and I wanted to do more, and I felt that I could do more. I had the capacity to do more, and I looked around at other places to put my money or spend my time, and think I had to keep my W-2 job, raising a family and having obligations and all that, but I still wanted to spend time doing other things and learned about other potential investments, and then eventually came on real estate. I started going to seminars. A lot of us do this. Like, say seminars coming to town for this weekend, or a free presentation. Learn how to do this or to do that, which is really not learning how. Learn how to fix and flip houses. Learn how to wholesale. Learn how to buy apartments. And an hour and a half presentation, and you're going to learn about this. Well, that's not going to happen, but it whets your appetite. And then maybe there's a weekend workshop or something, and you learn more about that. I started doing those things, but I got the bug and the interest, and I realized I could do something like this and learn about it. And it was about 13 years or so, I bought my first properties. I decided to buy multifamily. I was thinking about single family and even fixing and flipping or fixing and holding. That just seemed like a lot of work, a lot of time. A lot of people who are very successful at it. I know that you've had successes with that, and I can't disparage it. It's a great direction. It just wasn't for me, and so I started buying the multifamily properties, and I realized that the tech background, a lot of that applied. A lot of those skills that I had applied to what I was trying to do. That's kind of how I got started. I mean, I've been moving on from there, but just that was my impetus to change my directions.
Yeah. What I find really interesting these days is that more and more people from the IT space, the technology space, are coming into real estate. And
yes,
I think that's very interesting because, when I first got in the real estate business, engineers and technology people didn't really have an interest in real estate. They always were, like I had a big investor database, and I couldn't tell you if I had a handful of people that were in that space. But today it seems like all the people from that industry are doing real estate or coming into real estate. I find that very interesting today. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah. I've thought about it a lot. Actually, wrote a book about it that I give out from my website. Just come to my website and plug in your email, and I send you the book. It is the 5 things that technology professionals do to guarantee they'll never reach financial freedom. And it's things that they're thinking about. You mentioned you find that they hardly want to transition, or it's difficult to transition. It's difficult in a lot of ways, and there's some key commonalities among them. And it's interesting to read it. Like if you're a technology professional and you have not really stepped into real estate, but you've had that interest, it's good to understand what's holding you back. And there are a few things. Then you can start addressing them. And so, yeah, I thought about it. I see a lot of, these are good jobs. They're very satisfying jobs, and people don't mind staying in the jobs. And it's comfortable, and they're going to do their technology job through the end of their career, and then have enough money to saved up. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was not the direction that I wanted. I wanted something more. And people sometimes want to get out of their jobs sooner rather than later. They don't want to be dependent on their boss or their company or their W-2 in some ways. And this is a path. It is clearly a path, and I see successes over and over and over again. And it's technology professionals where I came from, but it's people from all walks of life, really. There's skills that come from every profession that you can apply to real estate. And
so tell people, John, how they get a hold of that book, because we might have some technology people that are listening in this morning asking that question. So tell people how they get a hold of your book.
Yeah. A real easy way to get started is go to my website. It's learnaboutapartments.com. Learnaboutapartments.com. Certainly you can connect with me on LinkedIn and Instagram and my email address and all those things. But this is an easy one to remember. And there you'll see links to download this ebook.
Awesome. That's great. I want to stay on this technology conversation here a little bit, but before we do that, I have to unpack this thing you were talking about, seminars. And I think we all get into business because we see, back when I got into business, there was a full page ad on the backside of the sports section of the newspaper. And it said, come, this trainer's going to come in. He's going to talk for 2 hours.
For sure.
Teach you a little bit about real estate. And I had no idea at that time that was an upsell, right? You go to this thing and they were doing 3 days, 2 different times at 3 different hotels in 3 different towns around Chicago. And you go to this thing for 2 hours and it's a free event. And then they get you at the back table. They upsell you to the weekend seminar, which I did. I went to Robert Allen. I don't know if you know that name.
I've heard the name. I don't know that I've seen him or joined any of his workshops.
Love Robert Allen. I think he's a grandfather in real estate investing, and he was a guy that taught creative financing, and he was a guy that said, "Hey, put me in any city in the country, take my money, and I'll buy real estate." And so finally, the St. Louis Times took him up on it, dropped him in the middle of St. Louis. He had never been there. He was from Utah, took his wallet, left him $20. And by the end of the weekend, he owned 3 pieces of real estate, had cash in his pocket, and spent the night at the Marriott. So, so anything is possible in this business. And that's the thing I want people to understand. Mindset in this business is so critical, but anything is possible.
Yeah, and it's, you have to be aware of stereotypes that may not be completely true. And the weekend workshops and the upsells are some of them. A lot of those workshops are really valuable, and a lot of the upsell materials are really valuable as well. And just because, I'm not going to that, I'm not going to spend 8 hours sitting in a room with a bunch of people knowing that at the end, the last hour is going to be them selling to me. Why would I want to do that? Well, there could be a really good reason, and you shouldn't close your mind to it. And I know a lot of investors who have thousands of multifamily units, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate, and they're still paying for coaching, training, mentoring. And granted, they're paying somebody a lot more money than what I would do at this at an earlier stage of real estate, but they're still paying for it. It's still worthwhile. There's a lot you can learn from more experienced people. So.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So back to the technology thing. What are you using today? What are your favorite technology tools that you use today in the multifamily investing space?
Yeah, I've got tools. I am a firm believer in buying off-the-shelf tools that fit a need, and I use several of them. One of my I've had in my W-2 career. I've been retired for, or I should say, I've transitioned to real estate over the last 2 years ago. I transitioned out of my W-2 job and I do real estate full time, and I've been doing that since then. And but in my W-2 job, I had some consulting roles, and what I found a specialty in was in implementing large software systems at large companies. I worked as a consultant and had an employer, and they all have old software that they need to replace and put in, and a lot of that software has been large systems, things like accounting systems, CRM systems. So I had a familiarity with it. And in almost every case, somebody in the organization is thinking, well, we're thinking of developing it ourselves and putting a bunch of coders to work on it, and we can get this done offshore and all this stuff. And it's hardly ever a good idea, especially when there's a good market of commercial products out there. And so I come into this with the same mindset, is that I'm not going to reinvent something. And so the answer to your question is, I have a CRM. I've used several CRMs along the line, a lot of free ones. I've used Zoho. I've used I can't remember all the names before that. I mean, Zoho is a good product. It just wasn't working for me. I'm on Active Campaign now as a CRM. It's a database, a contact database, and I've become proficient with setting up all the automations. Is like communicating with people. If somebody expresses an interest in something, then they'll hear from me, and they can always say, I don't want to hear from you anymore. I'm no longer interested. That's easy to do. Active Campaign manages that. It's configured that way. I use a syndicator, an investor portal for my syndications. And this one is Syndication Pro. I've had good luck with it. But certainly there are a lot of other ones out there. I've looked at a number of them, and if I were to pick one today, I don't know that I would pick this one. It's certainly working well for me, but you need to have that kind of a system in place to manage investor information, for them to come to your portal and look at deals that you have, and have a secure login for themselves to enter their information. And when they say, yes, this is a deal I want to invest in, gives you all the legal documents, private placement memorandum, the wiring information, and then you close the deal, and then it manages all the distributions for you. I use that tool a fair amount. I also have to say that I use Excel a ton, and I build things with Excel. My underwriting model is in Excel. It is a model that I developed, and I've borrowed ideas from other people. There's a lot of good underwriting models out there, and I've developed technology to make this work well for me, incorporate new ideas. I've over the years I've developed a strong skill in Excel, and I'm leveraging that to the best of my abilities to make it produce good information. And I've heard this said by other people, is that if you can derive better information on a particular opportunity you're looking at, then you have an advantage over other people. You could maybe buy a deal that other people are going to pass on. And the reason is because you can see the opportunities through numbers and through other information that other people can't see. And that's what I try to leverage.
Yeah, I always say the math never lies, right? We can make the math lie, but it doesn't lie. We can always accelerate rent growth or cheat on a cap rate exit, and make the math lie. But if we're honest with the math, it won't lie. So
for sure.
Where do you see technology going, and specifically AI, right? How do you use AI in your business today, and how does it work for you?
I have not been using it yet. I'm a little, I want to wait until certain technologies become more solidified or become more accepted. There's a lot of uses of AI, and I'm not an AI expert. I've not spent a lot of time trying to learn about it yet, but I think there's a good place for it. AI can automate communications with people, just in simple tenant interactions, from a property, an on-site leasing manager at a property to a prospective tenant. The tenant's got a bunch of questions, and they're stock answers for the most part: availability, rents, additional fees, pets, condition of the unit, square footage, when was it renovated, all this stuff. The tenants ask a pretty standard set of questions, and you can configure automated answering, and it's probably considered AI at that point. to give them answers without you paying a person to sit down and read the question and then respond to it, and without telling the tenant that you're getting an automated answer. That's one way, and you can communicate if you're trying to raise money for an investment, and you're looking for investors in a deal. Maybe you have a lot of people in your list, and maybe you want to communicate through text message. You can configure AI to send a text message that maybe is targeted right to that person, and do it a whole lot of times, hundreds, if not 1,000 times or so, to different text messages. I'm just kind of speaking hypothetically. Where you can use AI, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface. I think there's more coming in the future.
I like what you're talking about, using AI to help raise capital. How that's the piece there that I think that if we could get our arms around and be able to get to more people, because today in raising capital for our deals, and we know that multifamily is a function of capital, and we have to have that private equity piece to get a deal done. And when you're buying a 30, 40, $50 million deal, it takes a little bit more on the equity side. You might have a 10, 12, $15 million raise.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people all the time, I say, I could raise more money if people would answer the phone, because, I dial all the time, but, you leave messages, I send text messages, I do video text, and people don't care, until you catch them and have a conversation with them and ask them pointed questions, so how do you see maybe AI used, being able to be used for raising capital?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One is your point about phone calls is spot on. I mean, that's almost a lost cause. People get scammed so much. There's so many calls that you just don't want to take. You're not answering your phone, and I don't know that that's going to get any better in the future. People are not answering the telephone. I think the key to raising money is establishing your stronger social media presence, and one of the paths to that is through AI. And so you want people to know and understand you. You want them to see you and hear you, and even develop a trust in you, even if they haven't met you yet. But you want that to go on as much as you can in the rest of the world, putting yourself out there to people that you have never met. And so you're using whatever tools you have at your disposal to grow your social media presence and get yourself out on whatever those platforms happen to be. If it's Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube, wherever it is, you're going to meet new people there. You're going to run into people are going to see you who didn't see you before, and you're going to strike their interest. Not all of them, just maybe a small percentage of them, but you're going to see that. And you can facilitate that with a more selective and deliberate approach through AI. I mean, they're going to engage with you. They're going to come back like in Instagram and say, hey, yeah, feel free to jump in, Mike, if you're wanting to stop me. But I was just going to say, they're going to message you. You have to engage with them. And if you've got hundreds of people messaging you on Instagram, you can't handle that. You don't necessarily even want your personal assistant, your virtual assistant, or somebody who doesn't know you, who is not you, doing that because of the messaging. You could configure AI to do a lot of that. I had an experience not long ago where there was something somebody was messaging me about, and I was interested, and they caught my attention, and I looked at their profile and checked them out, and they were credible, and they said, hey, we should talk. And I set up a meeting, and because we'd been messaging back and forth, and we set up a meeting, and it was a great call. And very productive. I was super glad that I talked with him. In the middle of that call, he said, this conversation is the first time I became aware of you. And I'm thinking, oh, what do you mean by that? He said, I had my tool, my AI tool, exchanging messages with you. And I was thinking, man, I felt a little fooled by it, but then I thought that's impressive, and I don't feel bad at all about that. I appreciated, understood, and appreciated the tools he was using to make a connection with somebody like me. And I'm thinking, wow, how can I do this?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, how you can connect with people today. So it's going to be an interesting thing to watch over the next several months, years. They say technology doubles every 2.5 years. So, in a year from now, now that AI's been around, or really Chat GPT's been out a year,
Yeah, it's what they said about microprocessor speeds back in what the 80s, and a new version of a PC would come, an Intel microprocessor chip would come out, and every year and a half, it was like, was it Moore's Law or something like that? And every year and a half, the chip speed would double, and it would double, and it would double every year and a half reliably. Nobody monitors that anymore. It's been a long time since that's been happening. There's so many different technologies involved, but it's the same principle. I mean, the technology is marching forward at a fast rate, and it's our job to keep up.
Yeah. Well, listen, as we start to wind this thing down this morning, what do you want people to know about the market today? There's a lot of talk, uncertainty. I think there's two bookends of people out there today. You've got the investor who thinks on one side that next week there's going to be a better deal that comes on the market. And I don't think average guys like you or myself are going to see those deals. I think they're going to get insider traded, and they're going to be, shopped to operators that banks and lenders have relationships with. And then the other side are people who are afraid. So being that we're uncertain and people think the world's coming to an end, where do you see us?
Well, what I would point out first is that there's been no time in history where there haven't been a lot of people, prominent, smart people who've made good predictions in the past, who are coming forward and saying, there's just so much uncertainty and fear in the world. I'm just not sure. And I think this bad thing is going to happen, and that bad thing has happened. That's always the case. Every day, all you have to do is listen to the nightly news on TV, and you hear about all the catastrophes and the imminent disasters. You have to put a lot of that aside. You have to filter it and realize that the world is not, in fact, coming to an end, and things will get better. Next month, if they're worse, month after that, if they're worse, then certainly possible. It could be a few more months of bad times, or it could be a few more months of stability, and then we're starting to take off again. We don't know. We have to plan for things getting better in the future, because they always do. Me personally, I don't think this is the time when you have to be sitting back and waiting until there's some indicator or some very smart person comes on and says, I think it's safe to come out and make investments again. I think it's a good market. I think that things are going to start turning around. You can't wait for that. You have to be looking all the time, and that's what I'm doing. There are signs in the market. Where's the market today? Well, we see, as of when you and I are talking, we see that interest rates seem to have peaked. They've dropped a little. Whether they're going to start turning around and rising again, who knows? Maybe they've peaked. We see that inflation might have peaked and that it's sort of dropping. it's held steady. It's not dropping too fast. And maybe the Federal Reserve is done cutting rates. Don't know that either. Maybe the GDP is starting to show signs, or unemployment is not spiking like they thought it was going to. Those could be good, but maybe they're bad. Who knows? You can't get all wrapped up in that. What you should be doing today is looking at deals. You should be in the market. You need to be talking to brokers and staying active and reviewing deals. And if the deal is good, you take your shot at it. And because there are so many things that you're going to do with your deal that are not a function of the greater economy. You're looking at one small market, a city, and maybe even a sub-market in that city. What's going on in that market? What are the rents like in the properties nearby? What kind of condition is this property in? How much do I have to spend in order to get it up to that condition? And if I spend that amount of money, can I get the rents that I would need to be able to pay it off? You are forcing appreciation on a property, and you're doing it regardless of what the external factors are. Having said that, you're not going to buy in a market, in a city that's losing population, or where the big employer shut down a plant, or something like that. Just be smart about it, but you don't. You can get caught up in all the macro things about the world and decide to step back. Nobody. By the time somebody says it's a much safer climate to invest out there now, things are looking so much better. 6 months ago they were looking bad, but now they're looking great. And this is up, and this is up, and this is up, and all those things. By the time somebody says that, it's almost too late for you to be getting out there to invest. A lot of other people will have already seen that, and they got out there early. That's what you should do as well. That's
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think you're right. And I've been telling people, I say, listen, this is the time to get in the market. Leave the uncertainty on the side, because there's always going to be something that's going to make you uncertain about the market. But listen, if you want to position yourself in front of the next bull run, do something today. Don't just do nothing. Do something today and get in front of that next bull run. Hey, John, I appreciate you being here this morning. And just a quick question. What's the best book you ever read?
The best book, I would say it's Killers of the Flower Moon. Now it's a movie. It was a good book. It was really informative. I bought a property in that area of Oklahoma that the book was about, and learned a lot about it. And I think the book was great. I'm not sure. Wasn't too impressed with the movie, but it was a good book, and just
awesome.
It taught about a lot of aspects of our American history, the good and the bad, and went really deep into that one particular area of America, the Oklahoma area.
Great. How do people get a hold of you, John?
They can reach me. I mentioned website, learnaboutapartments.com. You can also email me, John, John, at cardinaloak.com, CARDINALOAK.com.
Awesome. Thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for checking in this morning. Remember, we're here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, and love for you to tell somebody about us and share this show with them. A lot of good insights this morning. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, John, and everybody. Have a great new year, and look forward to seeing how you grow and expand your horizons in the coming year.